Friends and family of the Red Cup Review, and those of you out in YouTube land, welcome back to this edition of the show. I am your host, Rob Banks. Today, obviously, we're looking at the Mezco 112 Collective Cable Figure, the man from the future, man at a time, right? It's pretty awesome. Seen a lot of people say that he's got a good case for Figure of the Year. That's a stretch. We're going to start off in the next segment by taking a look at the head sculpts. I figured while I'm doing this nice, boring intro for y'all to show you guys what he comes with out of the box, doing a little bit of a height comparison. He's about a quarter of a head taller than Cyclops here. I'm figuring you guys will probably display him with your X-Men figures, right? And he actually looks awesome next to Logan, right? He actually has the perfect height advantage over Wolverine there, and he looks great. So, again, without further ado, let's take a look at some of the details that make this figure good, but not great. Behind door number one, we're taking a look at the Stoic head sculpt first, and I gotta tell you that the paint isn't necessarily as flat as you guys might be seeing it, because as I get closer and closer on it, it's not just that uniformed beige look. There's actually some inconsistencies in the skin texture, especially around where his eyebrows furrow, and that is natural, so it catches good shading. I want you guys to pay close attention to around his eyes, because as we all know, when skin heals from trauma, right, it tends to get a little pinkish, right? Scar tissue tends to have a little bit of a pinkish reddish look to it, especially around his mechanical eye. It almost looks a little swollen. I'm kind of digging that. I love how the scar cuts through his eyebrow. That's appropriate. The eyebrow itself has got some pretty darn good paint. It's not just slopped on. And taking a look at his hair, the hair could have gone all completely stark white. There's a good amount of brushwork in there, right, to make it look like it has a little bit of layers to it. It's not their best work on hair, but it is good enough. Again, I have the lights on this thing as bright as possible. And there's a little bit of a seam on mine that starts right above his ear right here and rides up and around the head, but you really cannot see it unless you are totally up close and personal with this thing. You can see there's a little bit of a raised behind, that's because of this stupid light up effect. They got the same problem Cyclops had, but you're not going to see that from head on, or even from this side like this, or from this side like that. It depends on how you pose your figures. I don't pose my figures like this, and I don't stare up under their necks, so it should be fine. Secondary portrait, the good. The paintwork is as consistent as it is on the first one because he's making the snarling look. The actual scars around his eyes are a little bit deeper and more pronounced. I like it. I like the paintwork around the eye. It looks a little bit even more distressed on the mechanical eye. This is the best we're going to get with Mezco's snarling faces, right? They always have like an issue people are saying with like the teeth showing like that. And I'm just going to call the elephant out in the room. This figure looks like this right here. That confused child meme that's all over the internet a few years ago. That's the face he's making. It looks, you can't unsee it. So I hate this head sculpt, and I also like it at the same time. I like it because in dynamic poses it actually looks pretty good, although it's not as good consistent paint-wise as the first one. I'm going to show you guys a side-by-side with the hair. Obviously, the sculpt is much better on this one, as is the black wash. This figure, the hair paint is kind of not nearly as good. It's too much more of a flatter white. Not really digging it. I almost wish I had this paint on this head, even though the paint around the eyes on this one is actually better. Does that make sense? I don't know. The shit makes sense to me when I say it. As always here on Red Cup, we're going to do a crash course in the articulation along with the details in the outfit, so bear with me, and here we go. With the exception of a few small pieces, this figure actually has great articulation. He has double jointed knees that go all the way back. He has the thigh cut up over here, right? His legs actually go pretty darn forward. And because of the pants, he could do like Batman kicks, right? Yes, the split is actually dynamite on this figure, right? His ab crunch, he goes back pretty far and he goes forward for pretty far. He does shift left and right, not totally too much. Be a little careful. Obviously, you can see these buckles are running into these ones here. He has double jointed elbows. Right, and he has the bicep cut up here. Although when you rotate his bicep in and then try to bring his arm in, it is going to run into a little bit of hindrance with his chest breastplate here, right? The articulation of the neck goes up, it comes down, and it goes left and right and side to side. Again, you're going to have a little bit of an issue because of the whole, the eye glowing mechanism gimmick nonsense of that fucking bullshit they have you doing with these light up features. I can't stand it. I swear to God, unless you are an action figure photography, that is the biggest just wasted gimmick ever. All right. Now for the ankles. Big, huge hit. There's no ankle pivot at all in these things. These giant, what I call the Frankenstein boots, only move super, super slight. So it's going to really hinder him to getting into like deep stances. See how his legs kind of bend out like that? That is a big issue. Another big issue I have is that even though I appreciate the fact that the hands are a little bit more rubber, the way the guns fit in the hands is actually a big problem in my opinion. They go in, you could very easily maneuver the gun to get into the hand. However, the hand itself is too big for the handle of the gun. So once you get the gun in there, look, see how kind of loose it is? Doesn't really fit in there all that well. You can still have him pose with the gun straight on, which is fine. And you can have him, see how you pull it up and it automatically does that. You got to kind of like pose the gun in order to keep it staying, you know. But it works. It works good enough. It's just a little bit too loose in there. But you know what? We can't have everything, can we? Light up features are, we're going to take a look at them next. And the outfit. Okay, let's take a look at the outfit. First of all, this comes up here. All right, and that's how you turn the light feature on and off. Let's take a close-up look. Now, here's where the figure shines. It's actually the paint job is super duper. The paint job on this figure is some of the best paint work that Mezco has ever done. The arm looks great. It's weathered. It's got those Colossus-looking lines in it. Very cool. It's got the whole techno-organic, you know, type virus-looking, you know, with the wires coming out of the arm there. It's very good stuff. And, again, the paintwork. Paintwork is just freaking stellar. The scratch marks and the scuffs on the front there are great. You even have some dirt right across the shoulder here, some burn marks and stuff, which is pretty darn cool, some scorch marks. In the front of the outfit, you take his, you know, his sidearm and you slide it in like so. It's a little tight, so you got to kind of get it in there, which is cool, though, that's a little tight because you know it ain't going to fall out on you. So once you get it in there, you know it ain't falling out. All right, so the boots themselves, though, although they are clunky Frankenstein-like, they make up for it in paint, which is cool. And the straps are probably stitched in or sewn in because they don't really move. The straps don't really move. This one moves a very little. But they ain't going to have to worry about too much there. The pouches don't really get in the way too much. And obviously his knife slips in there. See, like when you pull it forward and it starts pinching like that, you got to kind of just maneuver it yourself and bring it up if you want to get him to do something like that. You know, like that. It looks good. He poses great. He's going to look dope with the weapons in it. But again, between the head sculpt problems, with the paint on one of them, and the hand problems, and the boot problems, this figure is not figure of the year. I'm sorry, guys. He looks great. He's got great paint, but definitely not figure of the year. It's time to light this little fella up. And this is the part where Rob Banks always refers to as giant pain in the ass. And unless you're an action figure photography, big fucking waste of time. On the back here, you slip his back plate. This is ingenious. This is actually something I got to give them kudos for, even though I'm not really a fan of it. It's dope. It slides off really nice and it conceals it well. There's the battery compartment. Get yourself one of those little eyeglass screwdrivers. You turn it on. You get a little bit of a light up effect on the back right there, which really means nothing because who looks at their figures from behind like that? And then on the front, you get the two bars, the X symbol to light up, and his eye. Now, when it's all lit up, it actually looks really, really nice. So the lighting up feature actually works really well. So for what it is, even though I hate it, it's actually a huge thumbs up for those of you that like light up features on your toys. Now we're going to go dark in 3, 2, 1. Here's a big complaint I see a lot of people talk about, is the fact that the light permeates up through the neck and around his whole face area. It actually lights up like a fucking Christmas tree. However, who looks at their action figures in the dark? Nobody I know, because you can't see the damn things. However, even in low light, right? So now I only got one light stuck on here. So, right, so the light source is coming in from this direction. And what's cool is that if you look at it from over here, I'm going to try to make it a little bit darker. You can see that the light permeates through this part of the face just a little bit, which is really cool. I actually like that. It lights up a little bit over here and kind of glows. So that'll work pretty cool for, like, you know, you photographers and stuff like that out there. Other than that, let's pop this head off. See, the light is actually pretty darn bright. And let's pop the other head on. Right? And there's him with the stoic look. And we'll go dark again in 3, 2, 1. Bam, going dark. And again, it lights up right through the neck and everything else. It is what it is. Look, guys, nothing in life is perfect. However, with all the lights on, you really can't even tell that the friggin' thing is lit up with the exception of the chest, because the LEDs in the chest are actually pretty darn cool. I just wish they would give us a paint job that's consistent with not having these stupid gimmicky light up features where the eye is actually glowed. Like, it looks like it's always kind of glowing and on, and these pieces always look like they're glowing and on, and the X symbol could have been a little bit brighter. To me, this is just silly gimmicks, unnecessary stuff. Best part of any review, the accessories. Yeah, right. All right, taking a look at the plasma cannon first. One thing I could say about this figure, and you're going to hear me well, you probably already heard me go on and on about the paintwork on this, is probably bar none some of the best paintwork, especially on the accessories that Mezco has ever done. This looks great. It's colorful where it needs to. This is actually a rotating carousel in here, which I think is a complete waste because you really got to get in. Like, who's going to do this to get their finger in there to do that? Okay, yay. Then that's about the life of that, right? But it looks good, and it's got great brush work on this stuff. Taking a look at the plasma cannon, again, excellent work. You got a nice shoulder guard here, which is cool. And here's something that I think is pretty awesome. It's actually more worn out around the handle area. See where it's more black? To give you guys an idea that it's been used and worn. They did more around the areas where it should have that, so that was very nice. There's no light up feature on this. The plasma charges, he comes with 2 of these things. Slide in like this, right? And they stay in there pretty tight. They're not going to fall out. They're really in there, right? So that's cool. I wish these little extra charge pieces came, like, I wish you could fit them on the actual figures themselves. All these Mezco figures come with extra, clips and all that stuff. You got to be able to store them on the figure in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, to me, it's a complete waste. Nice futuristic guns. Got a cool, nice, unique look to it. Here's the blade. This blade is awesome. Be careful. It's kind of pointy up at the top. Again, the handle is kind of worn down there around the silver area, which is cool because it gives it a little, like this blade's seen some action, like he sunk it in real deep here and there. And taking a look at the hands, we're going to look at one of each, obviously nice and worn around where the knuckle areas are. Look at that, the paintwork on this figure. If it wasn't for the figure itself falling short in certain areas, the paintwork on this is just out of this world. This one looks really nice. This is my favorite of the regular hands. This regular gloved hand itself looks really cool, right? Look at that, different shades of gray and brown, and excellent work. Very cool stuff. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of the video. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Please consider subscribing to us. Is Cable Figure of the Year? Absolutely not. I'm not even putting him in my top 3, but he displays like a boss. Let's face it, Cable looks awesome with those guns. He's got a stellar paint job on almost the entire figure, with the exception of the secondary head. It's a little flat over there in the whites of his hair. It's just too flat, man. Besides that, he can't really hold his guns all that well, and his ankle articulation is horrible. But he displays really awesome, and he's going to look great next to the rest of your X-Men figures. Is he a must-have for me? Nah, I don't know if I'm going to keep him in my collection. To me, Cable, big shoulder pads, first appearance, Rob Liefeld, that's the figure I wanted. But he does look pretty damn good. I mean, just take a look at the way he displays in some of these photos. You got to put a little bit of elbow grease in there, though, to get him to pose well, get him to stand on his own. Thanks for watching, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe he'll be good for you. He's all right for me. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.